So yeah, I think it's like a what's it called? A fashionable thing to like go to the thrift store and buy all your clothes.
So how thrifting has changed, I find to be very interesting.
I guess you could trace it back to like, what's it called? That thrift store song that Macklemore made. Macklemore dropped that song and like everyone was like, let's fucking go to the thrift store.
Thrifting is now named as trendy. It's named as a passion.
I definitely think that the stigma has surpassed and that it's definitely like a normal thing to thrift now.
Thrifting, it's like always exciting. You don't know what's gonna be there. There's no online catalog, so it's always something new.
At thrift stores, like there's a lot of clothes, so like obviously there's gonna be like some really like random like vintage thing in like pretty decent condition that would go for a lot of money.
Something that I've seen a lot of people talk about is like Depop resellers.
Resellers basically will go to the thrift store and pay a couple dollars for clothes and then go on websites like Depop and eBay and resell for $80, $90 just for one piece of clothing.
The problem comes in whenever like thrift stores start recognizing that and start already upcharging on those like shirts that used to cost like $2, $3 are now like $8, $10, so they can try and make a buck on everything.
Depop resellers, like Depop specifically, going to thrift stores that are sometimes in poorer communities or lower socioeconomic groups, which might be like the most accessible clothing options for them, and buying a lot of the really cheap things.
And then people who actually need the clothes won't be able to obtain it.
Going thrifting, it takes a lot more energy because you have to like sit there and like look through all of the racks. And like at the department store, it's very very well curated. The floor is like prim and proper.
Forever 21 has like a very curated look of what they have on the floor, but thrift shops have a lot of variety. So I have the opportunity to try things that I haven't tried together before, as well as sometimes get an opportunity for getting more expensive things for cheaper, as well as a lot less waste that's associated with the fast fashion industry.
I morally don't like fast fashion. That's not something I want to contribute to.
Fast fashion, there's like new shit on the racks like every day. And like that shit goes out of the season like weeks afterwards, and then like that usually goes into like landfills.
I feel guilty buying things in fast fashion because I know that I don't have the money for this and I shouldn't be doing this, and it won't have good long-term consequences if I purchase fast fashion. I love Pavement and Ragstock, stores that sell thrifted items.
At Pavement, we sort through a lot of clothes that come from bigger retailers that will stop carrying something because it's not in season or in style anymore, or because they have like these 4-week-long fashion cycles of stuff coming out. So we'll have a lot of stuff from like retailers that are a bit more expensive than people like, and then we put on hangers, and we're not just getting rid of them after 4 weeks because we think people don't want them. They have the opportunity to go to the discount bin and stay there for a while if nobody's getting them.
I think it's good for the environment. I consider thrifting to be something that's ethical because that aligns with my values.
There's some people that, because of the way they were raised, might be averse to thrifting because they associate it with like a group of people that they feel negatively about. And that might draw more of those people in to like see like, oh, this is cool. I like this stuff. Maybe this is okay and I can do this a bit more. And that might introduce people into sustainable models that they might have been averse to originally. And it also, I think, can remove some of the stigma for people who only really afford that it's like, you know, meshed together. There's not like this harsh difference between like a stinky smelling thrift store and like a bougie department store where they spray you with perfume or something.
The main like purpose of thrifting is so that like people that are less fortunate can get clothes. I think like at its core, thrifting is all about like accessibility.
I do try and think of like femininity and masculinity as like two different energies that like dance together. I'm trans and I'm non-binary, and I had the language for that at like 26 years old. There's definitely a lot of observations I made growing up. Things like Christmas, right? Christmas time. So like I would get pedicure sets and I would hate them, but my brother and my uncles and my dad would get like cool jackets that I was super into, or like hats, and I was just like, yeah, I'm never gonna use this pedicure set like ever. The binary works for so many people who are trans, who are queer, who are straight, who are cis. But what doesn't work is the fact that that's not the truth for everybody, and that's not the truth for a lot of people. There's some situations where I'm like, okay, which bathroom am I gonna use, right? Or like, oh, I'm getting my oil changed, so like I may be misgendered for an hour straight, but I'm not gonna fight it because this is like a safe that feels extremely unsafe for me to voice who I am and correct people, because who the fuck is gonna back me up if something happens? As you exist in these spaces, like if I have the privilege of being heard more now than I was a year or two ago in these spaces, then I'm gonna speak up more. You have to call it out. I definitely grew up thinking that femininity and masculinity are two opposite forces, but I've grown to understand that they work together.
I always felt like I had certain feminine, I guess, mannerisms. And people notice stuff like, I mean, especially when you're a kid in like a kind of more traditional community, like people notice, the limp wrist, the crossing the legs, like things like that. I feel like I always did stuff like that. But I would kind of, police myself, I guess, a little bit. I identify as non-binary or genderqueer. For me, a lot of what makes me feel good when I choose like what to dress and stuff like that is something that makes me feel comfortable in that, like in my body. I think especially lately I've sort of been trying to step into what feels like femininity for me more. That happens to be clothing of any sort of gender. I have this one that is more form-fitting. This one makes me feel sexy, especially when I dance, for sure. It's nice. Kind of brings out the hips a bit. There's more discourse around sort of like how can we break these molds, how can we get out of them. I myself, for one, I think sort of over time, as I've become more comfortable with sort of who I am, I definitely have been, have shifted, I think, in terms of like how I express my gender, like my masculinity, my femininity. I feel like a lot of those, that whole like dualistic thinking is something that we impose on a world, a universe that doesn't really define itself in that way.
As far as like my own presentation, that's something that I've always had a fraught relationship with, I guess, with femininity, because I grew up with brothers and my mom is maybe not the most conventionally feminine. Growing up, I always did feel like I didn't really know how to perform in the usual feminine ways, even just little things, right. Like makeup and stuff. And because I felt like how I was perceived had a really big impact on how I could exist.
Right.
And so that's what really motivated me to want to develop my own kind of sense of gender, because when I feel something that's in between feminine and masculine, I just think of it as myself. I feel like being able to really question everything and recognize that gender is constructed, I guess, basically, allowed me to return in a way to femininity in a much more lighthearted way than I was previously experiencing it,
right.
With me, the energy is different every single day. Sometimes every interaction may shift. I wake up feeling more masculine at times and more feminine other times.
As I've become more comfortable with sort of who I am, I definitely have been, you know, like have shifted, I think, in terms of like how I express my gender, like my masculinity, my femininity, all that.
I just think of it as something, like it's more of just like a feeling or a sensation.
You're so fat, you shouldn't eat, you're eating too much, you should stop eating, you don't even want to eat anymore, you're full, why did you eat, you should have eaten something healthy, or just not eating at all, why did you do that, you're just making it worse for yourself. I feel pretty gross about myself. I get very bad guilty feelings whenever I eat. Sometimes it happens before or during I eat my food, and therefore that makes me not want to eat. My stomach will hurt, I'll feel nauseous, I will just be sad overall. I go through phases with how often it happens. I've always had issues with my body. I remember being a little kid and being teased because my boobs are bigger, being like, oh, I'm so fat. I've kind of dealt with this throughout high school. Whenever I was in high school, my mom went through her weight loss journey, and my mom did lose 100 pounds. It was really good for her, and good for me too, because I was also working out twice a day with my volleyball team and things like that. So I was being active and I was eating healthy. But I think it also did negatively impact my thoughts about it. Made me think about food as you need to eat healthy or else it's not okay. Which I think maybe contributed to part of my issues with food now is I don't eat as well as I should, or I don't work out as much as I should, that type of things that I tell myself. Oh my God, you ate that so fast. My friends would always comment about how fast I would eat. Eating fast is not super tied to body weight, but to me it is. It's a constant struggle every day. I constantly have to think about it multiple times a day. It honestly never really leaves my brain. Food or eating or working out, it's always, always, always on my brain. There are days where I just feel too guilty to be able to eat. My body straight out rejects food. The type of thoughts I have about myself whenever I don't eat is kind of proud, good job, you didn't eat, you didn't put anything in your body, that's good. I know that's very detrimental to my health. I also have a disorder called anxiety sensitivity, especially in relation with food. And so with that, it's my body being afraid of its own sensations and losing control. And so I am never hungry, so I don't eat, but then I feel nauseous from not eating. And so I get increasingly more anxious from my body being nauseous because I don't have control of stopping that. I go to therapy once a week. I typically don't eat before my session so that I can have that type of sensation as closely as possible to the real life. I have to spin in a chair multiple times in a row. It exposes me to the sensations that I avoid. To feel less guilty sometimes about eating. Working out is a coping mechanism for me. I do get anxious going to the gym. I just remember in high school, I would have to go to practice, but I would feel deep feelings of I don't want to go, I'm just, my stomach will hurt, I will just get so anxious before practices. When I work out, it does make the feelings of guilt a little bit better because I can tell myself that, I did burn calories, so therefore the calories I'm eating, they just even out. I don't really remember a time where I haven't really felt anxious or depressed. I definitely have a lot of insecurity with my weight, living up to my expectations or others' expectations, and just feeling like I am not good enough. It's a constant struggle every day. Eating with my friends, I think, is easier for me because I can focus on them instead of myself. With myself, it goes either way, where I can eat nothing or I will eat everything in sight because I'm alone, and I do have those bad times where I won't feel guilty, so I'll just eat everything and I won't feel satisfied and I'll just keep on eating everything, and then the next morning I'll like hate myself. And then the next morning I'll like hate myself. And then the next morning I'll like hate myself.
Aren't I looking at the camera? You're not even sure what question. That was awful, wasn't it?
So, state your name.
My name's Crush. I'm from the ocean, and I'm like 200 something years old.
What do you do for a living?
I swim.
Well, do you work with Megan Casey?
Yeah, I do work with her. She shoves me in the suitcase a lot, though. It's really crammed inside there. Good thing I have my shell I can duck into.
You... And...
My name is Megan Casey. I am 26 years old, and I was born in Louisville, Colorado.
What do you do?
I do a few things. I have my own business called Rocky Mountain Puppets. It's in Colorado. And I'm also a paraeducator at an elementary school in Boulder, Colorado.
What got you into ventriloquism?
My dad, actually. When he found out I was going to be born, he decided to pick up ventriloquism, and he read to me growing up using puppets and books, and when I was 5, I saw his lips move. I thought it was the coolest thing ever that he could make a puppet talk without moving his lips.
Well, we want to count down to a good time. You do? You know how to count down. You're Countdown Duck, right?
Yeah, that's who I am. Countdown Duck. Does everybody here know how to count?
Come on out and show your face. Come on all the way out.
All the way. Oh, it was getting hot in there. It was really, really hot. Oh, I couldn't take it anymore.
So my business is called Rocky Mountain Puppets. My dad was actually the one who started it, and then I took over. I think in 2009, 2010 is when I took over the business. And then I've been doing ventriloquism for 21 years now. I started when I was 5, learning how to do it. And then I started when I was 5, learning how to do ventriloquism. And then I've been performing ever since.
Hello everyone, my name is Megan Casey. Do you all like to watch Disney movies? Well, I do too. The other night when I was watching Lilo and Stitch, right before I turned off the TV, that little fluff ball jumped right out of the screen, and he scared the jeepers out of me. Would you all like to meet him?
Come on, please. Hi.
How
have you been?
I've been better.
What's wrong?
The tides are down.
I was afraid of that. So there's this alien. He accidentally hit the moon, and we need to knock it back into alignment.
Ventriloquism has impacted my life a lot, for the better too. I initially went to CSU to become a doctor, and that's in Fort Collins, and then I realized after finishing my bachelor's that I didn't really want to be a doctor. So I was kind of exploring my career options, and that's where I got this job as a paraeducator at an elementary school. So I fell in love with teaching. I initially wanted to use puppets with kids to teach them about health, safety, fitness, nutrition as a doctor, but I think the whole thing I've transitioned to is wanting to become a ventriloquist with the TV show one day to teach kids about health, safety, fitness, nutrition, from a teaching aspect.
Yeah. Enough about Megan. Netflix, if you want to see a real star, give me a call. Or you can check me out on Megan's YouTube channel. See ya!
Hi, my name is Brett. I'm a fire spinner, and I've been doing it for 4 years. I learned here at 21st Street as a part of the culture, and I am the current fire lord.
I'm Anna. I've been fire spinning, I think, since October, so it's been like 5 months. I don't do it very often, though, so I'm not very experienced.
I love fire spinning because it's a great way to express myself. It's my favorite type of dance, and it's just a rush.
Well, I just like spinning the staff because it's really fun, and it's one of those things that it's kind of hard at first, but then when you start getting into it, you find your rhythm. It's really fun and awesome, and it's also really different for everyone because, like Brett will say, it's like a dance. Like, everyone dances differently. I want to be like Brett. I don't think I'll ever get quite there, but I want to be the person that, like, when I come out with my staff and stuff, everyone comes to the back porch or, like, at parties, like, it's like, holy shit, did you see that? Like, I kind of want to be able to put on a show.
I've learned a lot about myself through fire spinning. I think mostly just how to get into, like, the flow of things. And a lot about dancing as well, and what it means to be an entertainer and a performer on stage, how to interact with the crowd, how to, keep the show going and not let it get stale.
I'm working on this move where you take the staff from the right side of your body, like, to the left, like, you cross over, and you wrap it around your neck, and then it's supposed to fall to the other side of your body, but then I try to get it to roll down my arm, and I, like, lift my arm up, so then I can catch it and just keep spinning it. Like, it just, like, stays on my body the whole time, but it's really hard. It usually flies off or just kind of falls instead of rolls or something.
And it, like, it goes over my arm to my hand. Lower your hands up. It's like falling too fast. And hitting your neck. Bouncing.
Fire spinning is kind of helping me to be more comfortable in front of people and, like, be more comfortable just being myself however I want to be, because fire spinning is, like, kind of a, not odd, but, like, uncommon hobby to have and doing it in front of people, but also because, like, it's a dance, and dance is definitely some kind of form of self-expression.
Since it's a form of dance, it allows me to really show myself and my emotions through my movements and through the staff and the fire. The danger of it adds to the expression because it shows that I am willing to take risks, but that I can handle those risks.
It's super cool. Something I literally never ever would have done or thought about doing if I didn't move in here, which is, like, pretty cool. I feel like that'll always kind of, especially if I continue to live here and continue to get into that, that'll kind of be, like, a big part of my living here.
I also really love that it's like a part of the culture here, and it makes me really happy that people are interested in learning and want to continue that.
I don't think conservation is the right term even. Conservation implies something that like was and that we want to preserve. But nature, ecosystems are dynamic. They're dynamic. We're constantly just being dropped in a story of a forest or the story of whatever ecosystem you're working in. So it's hard. I mean, it is hard. It's complicated. How do you separate these unfolding dynamics of ecosystems with the fact that we know that, okay, humans are really drastically altering our environment in a way that's killing animal populations? I mean, an example that people like to raise is palm oil. Palm oil is predominantly grown in Southeast Asia, and it's a really popular oil for many good reasons. But the way it's grown, it's so popular that corporations are just cutting down the forest and planting plantations of palm oil. Orangutans and other animals that live in those areas could go extinct very quickly if people keep producing palm oil in the way that they are. Yeah, how do you get involved in like conservation in Austin? First, how do you do primate conservation in Austin? That's a little tricky, but you can acknowledge that our consumer decisions in Austin affect ecosystems globally because we're part of this global market. So how much palm oil are you eating? Okay, now they have sustainable palm oil. Is it, how sustainable really is that? Be a really conscious consumer. But that's like, I don't want to put the onus on you as an individual to like, I think you should still live a life that you think is like eco-friendly, but so much of the focus on our consumer decisions or our individual habits, it's like ways to buy other stuff. It's distracting, I think, from many of the bigger issues at stake. I think the other way to do conservation in Austin is to reflect on your relationship to nature. And it's not just about the plants and the animals that you come across and your relationship to them and how do you find food and where is that coming from. It's also thinking about the land. Whose land is it that you live on? We've spent over 100 years trying to remove people from ecosystems, both philosophically and literally. But I think going back, okay, what do you do in Austin? I think it's build a relationship to our ecosystem here that we can then take with us when we travel, and then we can be in conversation with the other people when we travel and say, what's your relationship like to your ecosystem? But you realize that you're not going as like the savior of primates to fix it for people and save the primates and re-educate the people there. It's like, no, you're going because your struggle is bound up in their struggle. It's like you're trying to figure out where you fit into your ecosystem. You're trying to be eco-friendly and conscious of your environment. So that's why I love teaching primate conservation, because you get a group of students who have really different ideas, different perspectives. We're really just searching for new strategies, new ways of thinking about the world, new ways of thinking about ourselves in nature, new ways to connect to communities in places where there are primates, we live in like a really globalized world. We can get on Zoom and talk to anybody anywhere. We can get on WhatsApp, you know, and chat. So many people have smartphones. We have a real opportunity to collaborate. I mean, just having these conversations is useful because I'm having ideas as we speak, like thinking about, okay, what is conservation? How do you do it in Austin? And I've only lived in Austin for a few years now, so it's like, okay, I can be a primate conservationist in Austin, I think. And that's inspiring too.
The last 12 months have been a difficult time to live and to get through college. As a student, I've struggled to see my own motivation, so I thought I'd ask a few friends what it is that keeps them pushing forward.
Okay. I am Mackenzie Darishlik. I am a fourth year biomedical engineering student, and I am part of the Texas Latin Dance organization.
My name is Nikki Beck. I'm a senior radio, television, film major, and I'm a part of Texan Student Television.
Texas Latin Dance, or TLD as it is called, is a really good place to hang out, meet new people, and above all, just like spend time socializing and learning new dance moves. What really drew me to it was that I could learn something in addition to hanging out with friends and dancing.
My favorite part about Texan Student Television is getting hands-on experience, especially when I was a freshman and a sophomore, stuff I didn't get to do in class, and really learning from others and growing as a creative.
The last 12 months really have affected me as a student, mainly because I don't see people as often anymore. I have to be really intentional about the people I see. So I have to, make appointments to see my friends instead of just seeing them in class like I would normally do.
The last 12 months have really affected me as a student because everything went online, and that's just something I was not used to. And so having to learn online versus learning in person was just a really difficult experience to transition to, especially so late into like my school career.
One thing I miss about the most is just walking down Speedway, which is really silly because Speedway could be a nightmare. But I miss just the accidental chance meetings of friends as you walk down Speedway. You really don't get that nearly as often. So, I don't know. Sometimes I'd see an old acquaintance I haven't seen in 2 years, and it's like nice to just catch up for a brief moment before we continue on our way. You don't get that at all anymore.
I think the thing I miss most about campus is taking classes with my friends, like at the Moody buildings, just being able to walk to class together, sit next to each other, hang out, learn some stuff, and maybe go to other areas on campus like the FAC or the SAC and study and pass our classes together.
I feel like I'm just doing what I've always done. my parents would call me a good student, but I feel like I just kind of skate by on the minimum without being best or worst at anything. So just sort of doing what I'm doing is, yeah, the same. But for a concrete answer, yeah, I'd really like to graduate, and I'd like to do it well. And that's a big motivation for me. Also, I have a pretty big fear of failure. So failing a test during this time is a pretty big anti-motivation. Detriment. It's a detriment. And yeah, I would like to graduate, and I'd like to not fail in the middle of that.
I think motivation is something I've struggled with a lot this past year, and I know a lot of my friends have too, because it's been such a hard transition from going to in-person classes to online classes, and there's not a real push to do your work and to stay focused during class when if I'm on my laptop, I can just go check Twitter or something. But I think the thing that's keeping me going to actually get good grades this semester is to be able to graduate and just be finished with it.
In the end, I found that my friends also struggle to find a big reason. We're all just trying to graduate. I guess it's not a huge motivation, really. It's more like discipline, to finish what we started. I suppose most of us are just going through the motions right now, but it's a shared experience. And maybe there's some comfort in that.
What does it mean to be made in the image of God?
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them.
By being in God's image, everyone reflects his character, his value, and the power to create. But we were deceived by a lie. We thought God was withholding our ability to be like him, even though he had already made us in his likeness.
I am a dancer. Growing up, the biggest confusion for me was comparison.
Another is I struggled with my own body image myself.
I specifically went to like a predominantly white school, and I think that had like a really huge effect on me, especially like in my elementary years.
I'm often led to feel shameful and ugly about something silly like a pimple or my weight.
My entire career centers around why I look the way I look, why my body moves the way that it moves, and if it doesn't look a certain way, I won't get the job, or I won't be included in a performance. And so a lot of my life,
I didn't feel like the way I looked was right. I felt that there was a mistake, and I just couldn't fathom or understand why I couldn't change the way I looked so often and so many times over and over again.
Naturally, a lot of people criticize the way that I looked, and a lot of the time I just really wondered why I was created the way I was, the way that I looked, the way that I talked, the things that I did. And specifically, like, my parents wouldn't really speak into it too much because Korean culture is really laced with a lot of silence and shame and just not wanting to talk about really serious things.
I know that I'm not defined by what outside sources say, but I'm defined what the Bible says about me. And the Bible says that my God sent his son Jesus to die on the cross 2,000 years ago, that I may be blameless and free. And so because of that, I know that he cares about me and that I'm really special in his eyes, and that I'm also very unique.
like seeing myself as someone who loves Christ and devoting myself completely to that, identifying myself completely in who Christ is, but recognizing that like I am that, and that enters into all of my other spaces of who I am. The things that I love to do, and I love these things because I get to enjoy these things in this world because Christ made it.
Because he is my creator. How can I spit on myself when he is well pleased with me and proud of me regardless of what I've done? And it gives me a lot of contentment and joy to love myself and therefore to love other people.
Full freedom. There's full freedom that comes with knowing that my identity is in Christ. That just gives me full freedom to be the imperfect person that I am, and yet strive towards like looking more like Christ, and then also like having full forgiveness for the things that I've done.
Because Jesus died on the cross for our brokenness, his sacrificial blood continues to unify and restore the diverse and complex image of God. Every nation, tribe, people, and language represent God's image.
神は自分の形に人を創造された。
And in his own image.
Lo crea en imagen de Dios.
남자와 여자를 창조하시고.
Everyone more or less has the same goals: help family, get money, and stay safe. But the real question is, how far are we willing to go to get all these? And how come people have to move halfway across the world to pursue the same things, but with an undefined path? Everyone alive today doesn't remember a time before colonization. This was before videos, before pictures, and before people understood what the master plan was. At the end of the 16th century, England and the Netherlands created charters for what were to become the most evil organizations in history. The British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company sought to dominate trade with Asia, and their rivalry soon expanded to encompass South and Southeast Asia. At that time, South Asia was a collection of diverse cultures, kingdoms, and religions that managed to coexist in relative harmony for millennia. After centuries of practice destroying civilizations across North and South America, the British implement all of their shrewdness into conquering and pillaging India. Starting off with small trading posts in the countrysides of Andhra and Gujarat, the British expanded to create factories and eventually settlements that would make their presence permanent. Over the following centuries, the British greatly expanded their territory and influence, subjugating all of the subcontinent by the 19th century. The British then created railway networks designed to exploit the land of its resources and take wealth back to Britain. It's estimated that $40 trillion of wealth and resources were stolen from the people and the land. Before the British, the Indian subcontinent accounted for 25% of the world's GDP. After their brutal reign, it was just 1%. The British Raj, as it was known, was controlled by white people on an island halfway across the world. On their heads sits a crown signifying the extent of their robberies. Precious jewels stolen from kingdoms and mines across the world adorn the crown, still letting most of the world know, I own you. Despite decades of an Indian independence movement that was both violent and peaceful, the British maintained a strong foothold on the people. Only after World War II and increasing pressure from other Western countries did the British finally give up their jewel in the crown. Along with the plundering came the most horrific product of the British Raj: hunger. Over the course of the 18th, 19th, and early 20th centuries, more than 60 million people perished due to famines caused by British negligence and greed. Its effects were severe enough to have a substantial impact on long-term population growth for generations. Hunger is still a factor that affects India to this day, where 194 million out of the 810 million undernourished people globally live in India. when we confine history to textbooks or old photos, we lose our understanding of how we got here. As the British Raj was coming to an end, it couldn't help itself in driving the nail deeper into the coffin that it put the people into. During negotiations, the British decided to split the subcontinent into two, the Hindu majority India and the Muslim majority Pakistan, creating the basis for intolerance that lasts even to this day. For centuries, Muslims and Hindus together were able to create thriving interdependent communities, but the partition of 1947 pitted neighbors against each other. The next few decades saw the worst examples of communal violence, leading to damaged relationships between the two communities and countries that last to this day. After independence, India struggled to build industry and provide basic necessities for its citizens. Poverty was rampant and the government lacked the infrastructure or the funds to create meaningful change. As Indians became more educated toward the end of the 20th century, they quickly realized that their country doesn't offer much. With unimaginable competition for resources and jobs, and an education system that is heavily reliant on private schools, the common Indian was forced to find another way he can to support himself and family. With the technology boom in the 1990s, computer-educated Indians were in high demand across the world. Moving to places like UK, US, and Australia, Indians took with them their fear and hard work, creating thriving communities within those countries. But as more and more Indians pursue opportunities overseas, India has been going through a brain drain, meaning educated members of its population immigrate instead of staying in their countries and trying to fix them. But considering all that India has gone through, can you blame them for wanting to leave?
That feeling of isolation, a lot of time to yourself, a lot of self-reflection. And, a lot of people got laid off. I got laid off.
We honestly all thought that it would probably just last about a couple of weeks.
Students tend to be pretty poor, tend to not have a lot of disposable income, and kind of putting them in that with like no rent freeze, without a job, wanting to take away UI, like with unemployment, not wanting to give a stimulus every month. Really, a lot of people owe a lot of money. A lot of people went hungry. A lot of people, just didn't have means of living.
What I do for a living is I work for a company called Vaco, and I basically just do online monitoring. For the most part, most of my job is classified, so I cannot go into detail about it. I graduated last year, May 2020, and I graduated with a degree in history and a minor in American Studies.
The things that I'm doing right now, I'm not really doing much. It's really hard to find the motivation to try and get your thoughts and pursue things and redefine what productivity is. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a bachelor's in journalism, and I graduated in May of 2020.
Apart from volunteering at the LBJ Library, I also work there as the assistant to the volunteer and visitor service. My entire job was based on booking tours for schools and adult groups, senior groups, in that way. When it all hit, all tours and all volunteers were not allowed inside the building.
When the pandemic happened, I was doing really good with like work in school. I was trying to make it as much money as I could at my serving job at Alamo. It was a beautiful little 2-screen theater. I loved it. I loved that place. I just enjoyed the people that went there, all the regulars. I made good income. It was just such a fantastic place to work. And then pandemic hit. I can specifically remember it hit during South by, and that's when they first closed Austin. And they decided to close down. That's one of our big money makers downtown. So they had to scramble to try and fill in all of these spots for the movies that were no longer going to be there.
At that point, I was kind of panicking because my entire job was booking tours, and if the library was going to have tours, I'm like, what am I going to do?
It all happened like within the same like couple days before March 17th, so they said classes are going to be indefinitely online, which was a real big bummer for like journalism students because we actually have to go out and like report people and like go and talk to people and be around people.
My mom wasn't feeling well. She was having trouble breathing, and I had told my husband, I'm like, hey, like I need to go to El Paso. I need to take care of my mom. My mom had called me that night and she had said, hey, I went to the doctor. They said I don't have COVID, that I'm fine, and that she was only a little sick. And I remember she had said, she's like, you have a mom for a little bit longer. And then a couple of days later, she died. It was very hard because I replay a lot of her voice just saying, you have your mom for a little longer, because that wasn't true.
It was a really sad day. I actually cried that day when that happened because I like really liked Alamo.
I didn't work the last day that it was closed. I was off. I was working at Mueller, but my bartender Luis took a video that he has, and it was when they shut down the lights for good, and then they just have never come on for about a year now, and they never will come back on.
So after my mom's death, I kind of went into like a very deep depression. I used all of that anger, grief as motivation, and I used it to apply to graduate programs for library science and library and information science. So I applied to the University of Washington in Seattle and the University of California in Los Angeles. And really, really good news is I got accepted to both.
There's like a couple opportunities that always have come my way. I haven't really had the motivation to get up and do those. I think I'm going to end up not, serving anymore.
These were hard times, and I mean, where do we go from now?
I think we're going to see a lot more people pursuing their dreams. A lot of people started to realize like life can be cut off like that in an instant. So I think people are going to not see things as risks anymore. They're going to see it as opportunity. And that's like a really big stepping stone for like a lot of younger people to just go for what their dreams are. And I think that's what's going to happen. Like whenever this is over, you're going to see a lot of people just kind of saying, screw it, I'm going to pursue what I want to do. I'm going to do what I want. I think like I'm going to love, and we'll see a nice future, and hell, maybe I won't even be here. So that'd be pretty great.
Even though we all feel so isolated, we are united in many ways that you can't believe. We are history. And I am so excited. As a history major, I am so excited to read about this pandemic in the future and seeing exactly how it all will be seen through the eyes of the historians in the future.
My name is Mario Alberto Olincoyo Ramirez. My pronouns are they, them, he, him. All I can really give the water personally is gratitude. I do that in very different ways, through song, through dance, through prayer with different medicines, and even through offerings of flour, just if it were another person. And I think that's an extremely beautiful relationship that I have personally developed with the Spirit of water and the water of the Spirit. A lot of people don't see us as alive anymore. A lot of people think we're dead, we're from the past. Everyone always says that indigenous peoples are then. I'm very much still alive to this day. I'm right here, I'm right in front of you. These traditions or anything are not then, they are here right now. It's just that the narrative within education, colonialism, and white supremacy and institutions constantly erase Black and indigenous, queer, and trans histories all over the world. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the flowers in the water. Through the Garzas, Ahewakiana, Yanawana, and working with the youth, I have been able to connect with these waters, with these lands. We must really acknowledge the caretakers and the peoples that have been in relationship with these lands for a very long time. My teachers, my elders have all taught me different ways and to have relation with the lands and the waters that have been here, and the ways in which we can continue to have reciprocity, a relationship, right? Because we have not been parasites. We, if anything, are in reciprocity with her. Water does not follow the rules of like time and space. And so when we speak with water, that water will contain that memory and absorb that memory within vibration. But when we leave a song or a prayer to the water, that song or prayer will then be passed on to future generations and even past generations, because we are the same water. So when we give gratitude, we're giving gratitude to those ancestors who left prayers within that water that we're now receiving from the past. And we are leaving offerings and prayers to Yanawana so that our future generations, our future ancestors, can then receive those messages as well through the water. And so water kind of acts like this line of like a hard drive or a motherboard. That's basically what we do when we leave prayers or offerings, is we're leaving a memory for the future selves, and we receive the memories of the past selves. The way we speak to each other and the way we speak to water is the way we're speaking to ourselves. And the way we're walking with the water, with Yanawana, is the way we're walking with each other. I think to have a very strong foundation as to your own relationship with Yanawana or water, or the spirit of water, or the water of the spirit. Because yes, we could be eco-friendly, yes, we could do all the things in the world to clean up water, right? To clean up the rivers and clean up the lakes and etc. But if there's no relationship or kinship, I personally feel that there is no reciprocity or true connection or true ability to recalibrate with the water.
I just got the urge to try it. Should I go under? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hard. I can do one. I'm proud of myself. I didn't think I'd be able to do that at all. Oh man, lots of sports. That's where that came from. That's all I did. It's funny because one of my something I was applying for, they asked me to write a letter to, I guess, someone, you know, I've always wanted to like say thank you to. And so I wrote a letter to my music teacher. And of course she'll never see it, but I told her, you know, like, thank you for protecting like my creative courage, because when I got to high school and middle school and stuff, I just started playing sports. I didn't try to be creative at all. I was more so concerned with never being embarrassed. And in the letter I told her, in the letter I said, I didn't know that a vow to never be embarrassed was also a vow to never be creative. And I totally believe that. And now I don't really care. You know, I'm happy that like I've gotten more creative, just like living and being myself. And it's just crazy how, you know, you can let people like suck the life out of you. Growing up, for me, I watched a lot of Tyler Perry. I grew up in a Christian, Black, Southern culture type of household. And so I would just watch his plays all the time. At the end of Tyler Perry's plays, he always talks to the audience. And one time he said, if you want to, you know, you guys see what I do, if this is something you want to do, just pray that the Lord's will would be done in your life. Now I don't really watch all of his stuff. But yeah, that was the first time I was like, I think I could definitely see myself doing this. I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and the dude was saying like, it's really hard coming up with original content. That's not true when your story doesn't get told as much, right? So I feel like I have like an upper hand sometimes, because I'm like, I have no issue coming up with original content. Like there's so much of me and Black people and, you know, my life and my culture that isn't on television. So literally almost whatever story I choose to tell has never ever been told, which is great. Like that is, I definitely consider that as an upper hand. My short film, Say Yes Dad, there's basically, I call it a romance turned thriller, because there's like suspense, there's like this super cute date happening. We reveal that the main character in Say Yes Dad, she has like a mental issue. So she actually kills her dad because he did not say yes for her to allow her to go on a date. I wanted to create something unexpected. Honestly, that entire experience, start to finish, was tons of work, but I would do it all again. And so that is also something that confirmed, like, this is what I want to do. To me, it's interesting that, like, today, like, the work for it is sitting in front of your computer and, like, watching videos, or sitting in front of your computer and writing things, creating content. Like, that is the work for it, you know? Like, usually if you think, like, oh yeah, I worked for this opportunity, you're thinking, like, oh, somebody was, like, physically exhausting themselves to, like, pace or run somewhere or, like, do things physically. But no, like, virtually, that's, like, the work for it. The past year and a half, I guess. So, it's like, yeah, I'm working for it, but I'm doing it all on my computer. Those struggles, like, should I just focus on acting? Should I just focus on producing? Should I just focus? And I've just, like, decided, just get in. Like, you can always navigate within that space, as long as you're close to what you love. Like, something, you don't always have to be, like, right, like, doing exactly what you see yourself doing or what you love, but if you're close to it, the two things I want to do is either get placed in a great internship or get accepted to a great film school. So that's where I'm at right now. I've applied to SCAD, which stands for the Savannah College of Art and Design, which is in Savannah, Georgia. They also have an Atlanta campus, so, you know, based in Georgia. I think that, like, going to these things, I guess in the back of my head, I'm like, they will see my name and recognize that I care, because this is the second info session I've been to now. So I hope that, you know, even if they don't pass my name to, like, my advisor at SCAD, I could do that, you know, and tell her, like, hey, I'm really interested. I went to another info session. So I think that expressing interest is important, and I think it helps us, you know, stand out
So yeah, like I wanted to come out, express interest, and I enjoy stuff like this, right? It's my future, you know. I'm Raven. I'm interested in coming to SCAD. I went to another info session that you guys had.
Amazing. What area are you interested in studying at SCAD?
Yeah, I'm specifically interested in TV and film
Okay,
production.
amazing.
I feel like there's so much that I love about the creative field. So I always feel like I could switch or something. I haven't really narrowed it
Well,
down.
let me just tell you, Raven, that you don't have to narrow it down.
So I don't want to get too excited because it was really awesome, and I'm happy that I came to this one because you sometimes you think like, oh well, I went to the first one, so there's nothing that they can say differently, but no, like it was pretty fantastic. I got more information about the program at SCAD. I have submitted my application, and now it's just a matter of, I think they let you know in about 3-ish weeks. So hopefully in about 3 weeks I can see where I stand with SCAD. But yeah, I felt good today. It's really hard to wait. Like a waiting process sucks. And I am a person of faith, and I have a lot of faith, and I believe in, God, I do. And I do believe that my success is tied to his love and his kindness and his goodness. But regardless of, a Christian or a non-Christian, waiting sucks for everybody. And we all doubt, we have doubts, and we all have cases of imposter syndrome. And I don't think that stuff goes away with opportunities. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm in this waiting process, and I have to, give myself room and freedom to not have it figured out. And I think that I'm doing an okay job of that. So that's where we're at.
I'm going into a whole different world. My life in Austin is completely different from my life in Crystal City. It's different people, different vibes, different feelings. In Austin, I feel a little more independent and grown up. And in Crystal City, I feel like I'm swimming in a pool of nostalgia. I grew up there, I went to high school there. My life isn't there anymore, but it's kind of like traveling into the past, I guess.
It feels surreal to be in here, I guess. It's a little different. They painted the walls. It's a little brighter in here than I remember. And it just feels a little nostalgic, I guess.
My name is Alexandra Urvaso, and I want to get back into powerlifting. Powerlifting is an individual sport in which a person competes in 3 categories: bench, squat, and deadlift. They have 3 attempts in each category to get the best possible lift, the biggest number they can get. And whoever has the highest total at the end of the competition is the winner. Powerlifting to me is I guess it's a place where I feel strong. It's a place where I feel kind of like recharging your batteries, right? Your batteries can only run for so long. So powerlifting to me is that, I guess, that outlet that makes me feel strong again, makes me feel more confident, makes me feel like a badass. Right now, I
attempted to lift once again, but I could only bench 25 pounds on each side, so that's, I'd have to do math on that. I could only bench 25s, I could only squat 35s, I haven't even attempted deadlift. Feels like I need a lot of work. I don't feel as strong as I used to anymore. Makes me feel a little sad, I guess. After high school, I wanted to continue with powerlifting, and so I joined the Longhorn powerlifting team. And they're all a bunch of really nice people, but it was different. It wasn't the same. It got to be a lot for me. It started to get harder and harder to participate with all my classes. I was taking chemistry and biology, and I was physically exhausted and mentally tired and emotionally drained. I needed help, like I needed people around me. I didn't really feel like I fit in either. And one of my teammates walked up to me and asks if I'm okay, and I'm not okay. I say, I'm getting through. And then they looked at me and said, okay, I just wanted to check in because Crystal City girls don't really do well here. Crystal City girls don't really do well here. And that stuck with me ever since. The night I failed my 4th chemistry exam was the night I quit powerlifting. I felt like a failure, and I still kind of do. I don't know, I feel like I need to prove myself somehow too. There's a lot of factors going into why I want to continue with powerlifting. I think that's a big one. I just don't want to feel like a failure anymore. I want to lift for me now. I want to compete for myself. I want to compete not a part of a team. I want to compete as Allie, as me. I think the term powerlifting's taken on different definitions over the years for me. It's time for a new chapter. It's time for me to see just how far I can grow by myself with my own strength. Working out with teams and competing with teams is great, but I want to take my time. I want to do my own workouts. I want to take care of my back, take care of my body, slow down a lot, do things when I'm ready, compete when I'm ready to compete, and that might be this year, that might be next year, that might be a few years from now. But when that time comes, I'll be ready. And I'll be happier. It's just starting makes me happy. Looking forward.